What is going on, YouTube? This is Jim back with another video game review for you today, and I will be looking at Wreckfest. Now, I'm talking about this game because it just recently came out on Xbox Game Pass, although the game did come out after a pretty long early access cycle. It did finally launch in August of 2019, back then for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and I am playing it on PC today. So sit back, relax, subscribe, and enjoy the video. Let's talk a little bit about Wreckfest, guys. I did not like this game. And it's not to say it doesn't have some redeeming qualities. It's just not for me. You're going to see, I'm looking at my screen here, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 different snapshots of moments in gameplay. And I want you to keep in mind as you're watching, what is this game trying to accomplish? Is it trying to be zany, goofy? Is it trying to be real-world physics-based? Or is it trying to be die-hard racing game? I don't think it succeeds at any of those 3 things, and that's why it just wasn't for me. But it does sit at a plus, look, 81, 82 in Metacritic, which is really, really good, considering it was published by THQ Nordic, who has a track record for releasing less than stellar games. We'll just go ahead and say that. But yeah, you know, I have to start off by saying that I am going to eternally be biased against any destruction game that is not Destruction Derby for PlayStation 1. That was my first love into the genre of, we'll call them destruction games. And that game just handled everything so incredibly well, despite the fact that it is incredibly old now. Despite the fact that it just has not aged, I think, as well as it probably should have. It was just such a phenomenal game because vehicle damage mattered. Your car, after a while, the front end got messed up, you had to drive in reverse. You got points for spinning people out. You got points for destroying other cars. And it was very rewarding because, you know, it was really, at its time, really, you know, groundbreaking. Now, we've had a lot of games that have included destruction in them. I mean, pretty much every racing game ever. This game is no exception. And I have to say the destruction is pretty, but it doesn't mean anything. It felt very superficial to me. So you'll look in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, any of these screens you're watching, and you're going to see all these indicators of, like, the transmission, the engine, fenders, tires, and then you're going to see a health bar at the bottom. As you drive around, whether you are looking for a fight or just honestly trying to race, you know, the track, you're going to crash into things are going to crash into you, and slowly your car is going to devolve, essentially. Parts are going to start falling off, windshields are going to get cracked, and the destruction looks phenomenal. It really does. I mean, I think you have to take a look and say, okay, at the end of a race, like, look at all these tires, look at chunks of the sign blowing around, pieces of the car falling off. At the end of a race, when you go back and survey the actual track, it looks demolished, which looks great. It's fun to drive through. It's fun to navigate through cars that are missing, you know, that are like chunks missing. You're zipping around cars that didn't quite make it, tires, signs, whatever. All this debris in the road definitely does paint a picture of, like, car violence, which is cool. I think that's what they were gunning for. I mean, the name of the game, Wreckfest. It's right in the name, and they did such a good job of making it feel like you were really just destroying this car and destroying this course. The problem is that it doesn't really matter. It's very superficial. You know, you have parts of the car that are just hanging off. The front end is broken, and you know what? The car runs fine. It says your suspension is damaged, but it's not. It's not. It says it is. Your tire's wobbling, but it drives perfectly straight. You have the same amount of acceleration. You have the same amount of engine, everything. It just, and I played with the options to try to go in and make the damage what they call realistic. And yes, it does increase the amount of damage your car takes, but it doesn't really amount to much of anything. You would think that after some of these major structural damages, you know, your suspension should get destroyed. The front end should be destroyed. You shouldn't be able to accelerate as fast as you do. You shouldn't be able to turn on a dime, but you do. Everything's just perfectly fine. So, okay, the wreck part of it, as pretty as it is, just didn't really feel like it amounted to much. You know, I think back to, again, Destruction Derby, where, you know, if your tire was messed up, your car would pull. You would have to gently tap left on the directional pad. Yes, we didn't have analog sticks back then. You had to gently tap left on the directional pad to keep your vehicle going straight because the suspension was bent. Or, you know, you give it gas and it wouldn't shift past second gear or something like that. Those were fun things you had to adapt to. I mean, I'm taking this bus, driving like a madman, trying to get around this loop, which I can't. I mean, look at my tires. See how my front tires are wobbling back and forth? Like, there's clearly something wrong. The front end of this bus is gone. The engine block is completely missing at this point. And yet, it handles perfectly fine. I'm zipping around, I'm stopping, I'm turning, I'm crashing into the mindless AI, which I think is a good transition because the AI in this game is just god-awful bad. They just can't seem to get out of their own way. And I thought maybe they were programmed to say, okay, like, we're going to make the AI be just reckless and hellions. They're going to just crash into everything they see. They're going to mix things up. They're going to just, okay, and I get that. But they just crash into static objects. They drift off the road, you know, seamlessly when you're trying to actually race. They don't seem to be very intent on winning the race. They don't seem to be very intent on always crashing into things. They just kind of drive around like wild and like loose. And you'll see at the end of this video here, keep that in mind, as we do go into the Destruction Bowl, where it's going to be no race. It's just you have to survive. And look at how the AI drives around and tries to manage that. And I think that's just a great indication of kind of how bad it is. So with bad AI in a game like this, it's up to you to make your own fun. It's up to you to create a lot of the mayhem. Do you want to race legitimately? Or do you want to be an idiot like me in the school bus and just stop in the middle of intersections and try to go out of your way to just be a jerk? Which, I mean, the race is clearly over. I don't even care. I'm driving backwards at this point, just going for head-on collisions, you know, trying to just take cars out, as many as I can. I mean, clearly my bus health is, you know, it's getting pretty low at this point, but still handles perfectly fine. But I'm just, at this point, I'm not even trying to race. So, you know, I had to make my own carnage here because the AI doesn't really want to do that. Although the AI doesn't really want to race either. They're just kind of there. You know, if you wanted to, and I think you're going to see it here in this next clip, you know, if you really wanted to, you could drive around and actually drive legitimately. You could say, okay, I'm going to focus on a race at this point, and I'm going to, you know, go into it with the intent of actually trying to win. And I'm going to win, and the AI is not going to pose much of a threat, and I'm not going to have a problem winning. So it goes back to my original question, like, who is this game really for? Is it for people who want a legitimate racing game? Well, no, there are other racing games that handle vehicle damage and realistic vehicle simulation significantly better. A lot of them. I mean, I think Forza is probably a clear example here. Any of the Gran Turismo games, if you want that, you can get that. Do you want to have goofy, zany races where you're doing things like this one called Hell Ride, which was an interesting course idea? Well, okay, I guess it would check the box in that respect. But, you know, me driving around, like I said, like a boob, you know, I'm trying to make my own fun here. I'm trying to say, okay, well, I'm just going to drive like a madman, and I'm going to try to, you know, cause some damage. I don't care about winning this race. I want to drive backwards. I want to crash into people. I want to grief people. I want to explore the rival system and how the rival system works. Just as a quick aside, is if you start getting in a lot of damage with one other car, they become your rival, and you get a little extra points for damaging your rival, you know, like making their life miserable, which is what I'm really just trying to do here. I mean, I'm just driving in oncoming traffic at this point and just trying to be a total dork. But realizing that, you know, you do get experience and rewards for everything. This is a really fast way to grind, is just drive backwards until your car, you know, abruptly gets destroyed. I'm already at a third of my health. You could do that. And then when the race is over, your critical damage, it's over. You still get rewards. You still get money. And then that's it. Then you win. And then you can upgrade and do whatever you want, buy more vehicles, and I guess, I don't know. None of the cars really felt like they handled all that different to me. I mean, yes, the school bus did. The lawnmower did feel more like a dune buggy type, little go-kart type thing. But the rest of the cars, they just kind of were there. They had medium acceleration. They had medium turning radius. I didn't feel like any one car was like an S tier car, for example, that gave me some sort of crazy, performance boost or anything like that, which again goes back to, I think, the mediocrity of the racing simulation portion. So, looking at it and just dissecting it really across any way you can, and it just doesn't really seem to, really do anything spectacularly, which surprisingly, why it even sits at an 80 plus Metacritic is kind of confusing to me. I don't know. I'm trying to think of 2019. Maybe there was just no good racing games out. I don't really know. But yeah, so what I decided to do was, okay, I've already established that the AI is kind of dorky. You can make money if you want to by just what I did a second ago, driving into oncoming traffic, being a complete idiot, and, enjoying it that way. Or I'm going to legitimately play this race and I'm going to beat it. And I'm going to finish in first place, and I'm going to just ignore all the AI entirely, and I'm going to quote unquote race the track. And you can do that too, I guess, if you want to. I feel like if, to improve this game, what could they have done differently, honestly? Well, there are a lot of obstacles in this course, and driving through them or around them or doing tricks with them doesn't get you anything. I feel like, this big sign, hell ride, this big flaming ring you're going to go through at high speed, like, ooh, how spooky. Nothing happens when you do it. There's no special effects. There's no bonus points or bonus experience awarded. It's just there. So a lot of it just feels like a half-baked design. Like, give me some incentive to do that. It's very easy on this particular course to go around under the bottom and to take, the path of least resistance and be fine with it. But, give me an incentive to, challenge me against the course. I think like Trackmania style or something. And that's where I guess I kind of end up with this review, is just, that's why it just didn't really do anything spectacular for me. Yeah, it looks pretty. Yeah, the vehicle damage is impressive. There are different models of cars that do sound differently. It does seem like a pretty diverse roster. I have to give credit to a lot of the artwork in this game in terms of just, how Mad Max-like some of these cars look with all this crazy spray paint and crazy markings, and, there's really realistic skid marks in the ground and the way the smoke and the particle effects look, and it's pretty, but you could race and crash into things, but it's not really that rewarding. I do leave it here with the bowl. This was the one that I was honestly the most looking forward to. I thought, okay, if we can get into the bowl here, this giant, there is no race now. We're eliminating everything else. We're just going to drive around and crash into each other. I was just so insanely just unimpressed, so unimpressed at this point, losing the ability to speak, because the AI, like, this guy's driving around backwards for really no reason. They're not even trying to attack me. They're almost like it's almost like a game of chase. Like, they don't even want to hit me. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their AI is programming them to do. I'm trying to hunt them down. I'm crashing into them. I'm getting no indication at all. Occasionally I get a shunt. I'll crash into somebody. Nothing happens. No indicators. No damage markers. I took no damage. They took no damage. Nothing's happening. It's just like, is this going to ever end? And it just felt like it was just depressing. I was like, I want this game to end. I want the AI to come after me, team up on me, crash into, do something cool, hit up the ramp and come down at high speed, try to pin me, try to get me in a position where I can't succeed. They don't. I mean, my car is completely destroyed. Why did that car veer off? Why didn't he slam into me? Just right there. Why didn't he just slam into me and just end it? I don't know. But it is what it is. Not a fan for me. I think this falls under another mediocre Xbox Game Pass game, which is unfortunate. I really wanted to see a win here, and after all the reviews and everything I had read about it, made me really feel like, you know, we were going to see some more damage and fun, and it just didn't. It didn't do it for me. So that concludes my rant on Wreckfest. I hope you guys enjoyed Wreckfest. If you did buy it or you're playing it, good for you. For everybody else, leave a comment below. Let me know how right or wrong I was. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, oh man, this game. Until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.